Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the SUPERTFZ No3 Pro. With this particular review, I'm going to try and see if I can do something new, which is, well, at least new for me, which is I'm going to try and keep it under 10 minutes. Firstly, because I mean, it's more than enough time to actually talk about the No3 Pro, not more is needed, but also some of these IEMs which I believe are just another one, let's put it that way. It's pointless to spend a long time in making lengthy reviews. I mean, obviously, if you guys want me to compare it with something else, I'll be more than glad to try and do that. Anyway, this is the No3 Pro. Very simple box, as you can see. I mean, nothing really, special. The IEMs came over there, as you can obviously note. Okay, and inside here we have the rest of the accessories, a carrying case, some literature, the cable, which is neither here or there, it's okay. Plenty tips. That's never really an issue with TFC. They always supply good tips, and that's it. So I mean, this is an iron that's being sold for around $60, roughly $65, depending on which store you're buying it from. And from what I understand, SUPERTFZ is the name that TFC has adopted as of late to identify its IEMs. I have been a big fan and supporter of TFC for a number of years now. I've just got a few models here which I thought would be the most relevant to compare here with the TFC No3. This is the No3, as you can see. This is not obviously the stock cable, and I'm using KB Euro 7 tips, large size. The shell is exactly the same as the original No3. The driver also seems to be the same thing. Fits nicely, no real issues with fit. It's not a heavy IEM, and so it isolates pretty decently if you got the right tip on it. And yeah, that's it. I mean, ergonomically, in terms of its physical aspect, it's fine. So what do I have here to quickly run by and compare with the No3 Pro? Well, this one I'll leave for last. I've got here some of the IEMs which I consider to be the worthwhile ones out of TFC after all this time of buying countless models, and I think in terms of the single DDs, I've got them all. On the top tier we have the TFC Live 3. This was an IEM that came out around 2020, more or less, and it uses a third generation driver, which is exactly the same generation driver that's used in the original TFC No3. That came out in 2018. Okay, again, that's the same driver that is used in the TFC King edition, which is this one over here, which is basically an all metal shell. Again, the third generation driver. Okay, so third generation driver, third generation driver, third generation driver. Here we have the Tequila, which came out, Tequila Pro actually, which came out towards the beginning of 2022, if memory serves me right. That also used the third generation driver, and basically the third generation driver is the progression from the second generation, which came out in the T2 and in the T2 Galaxy and so on and so forth. But anyway, that also uses the third generation driver. 2022, yes, I'm just trying to confirm here so I don't mislead you guys. All right, in the front here, what do I have? I've got the TFC Love Edition 4. This uses a 2.5 generation driver. This came out around 2021, roughly, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 2021. The No3 Pro, obviously. Over here we already have a SUPERTFZ. This one is the I think this was called the Force one, if I'm not mistaken, and this is one of the most expensive ones that they had. That's single DDs that they've had actually. All right, I'm not sure about what is the generation of the driver that's used there. And finally here I've got the Live X, and the Live X also came out around the same time. Well, no, came out 2020, 2021. And that uses a 4th generation driver, which is also present then in the King RS. Okay, so this is, you could say, the best driver. The number 3 drivers, 3rd generation drivers over there, or the second best. The difference really between this and the 4th is not that much. But then you do notice a big difference towards the other generation drivers. The TFZ, the number 3 Pro, by the physical looks of the driver and everything, I am assuming, and as well by the way that it's crafted, I'm assuming that it's also using the 3rd generation driver. All right. Okay, so let's try and break this down. They all have various grades, with the exception of here the Love, but they all have various grades of V shapes, more or less pronounced in the base, with a peaks that occur around 2 to 3 kilohertz, and then about 4.5 to 5.5 kilohertz. That's kind of a common thing. Those peaks, or the intensity of those peaks, will be greater or lesser, and then usually there's not that much of an extension past 10K. Okay, the Live 3 and the number 3, they actually sound quite similar. Nice full bass, controlled, it's got plenty of impact. The peaks that they have are not as pronounced as, for example, is the case in the King or in the Tequila Pro, so that means that they're not going to be as sibilant and so on. And overall, the sound it's a nice sound. It's an old type of signature that was used, but it's a nice sound. It's agreeable. It's fun. You know, not the one, not the it's not going to be the one that's the latest and the greatest to go and do some monitoring or anything. Funny enough, between the Live 3 and the number 3, I actually prefer the number 3, although they're using the same driver. I don't know what it is, but it just sounds the timbre and the tonality of the number 3 just sounds more pleasant than it does on the Live 3. It's not a huge difference, but it is sufficiently noticeable. Okay. The King is basically a bassier version of the number 3, but also has those peaks, and those peaks at certain volume levels you don't really notice them, but then they can become aggressive. The Tequila Pro and the Live X, they also share kind of a more bassy signature with regards to the number 3, and again they have those peaks, but for some reason, and I'm assuming that the main reason for that actually is the fact that they have that amount of bass, those peaks are not as obtrusive or intrusive, sorry, as you would think. So that you actually manage and handle those peaks half decently. Of course, tip selection and the source selection will ultimately also help in trying to control those things. But the reality is the Live X has great bass. The Tequila Pro has great bass. I mean, these two in terms of bass are probably the best out of all of them. Okay. Followed closely then by these two. All right, and that's it. The Love Edition 4 has got a kind of a signature which will give you kind of hints of HD sound hard mirror, the original. So what does that mean? It means that the bass is very neutral, so none of that V-shaped tendency that we have, and pronunciation and emphasis on the bass. It's a more neutralish bass. Actually, it even rolls off slightly, and then the mids and the highs are very much similar to what you found on the number 3 and on the Live. But because there's less bass, this sounds way more open. Okay, where does that? What about then the number 3 Pro? The number 3 Pro is in effect a slightly more bassier version of the Love Edition 4, sharing again a lot of the same DNA that you find in terms of the mids and highs over there, in the original number 3 and in the Live 3. The difference being that over there you have a rise of the pin again, you have a small peak, a dip, and then another small peak, and then while over here you have a progressive rise of the pin again. which peaks at around 4 5k, between 4 and 5k. Because it plateaus between that, so you can say it peaks around 4k anyway. What does that translate in terms of sound? Well, in terms of sound, because the bass obviously is less than on the original number 3 and so on, mids are way more open, vocals are more detailed, so it's very nicely done in that aspect. Very much kind of following what they've done here on the Live Edition 4, but they've polished it up significantly. They've polished up the mids and the highs. The vocals come across much nicer, a little bit more detail on the treble, and the bass is now more prominent, which is really what you could falter. The only thing that you could really falter on here. So overall, a pleasant sounding IEM. It's nice. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, is it a worthy successor to follow the name of the original number 3 Pro? Honestly, you know, I remember people giving KZ a hard time when the CRA Plus came out, and because the CRA Plus wasn't exactly the same as the original CRA, it got crucified by, why did they go and call it CRA Plus and this and that and blah 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 blah. They should have called it something else. Well, I'm going to say the same thing. Well, TFC here could have also called this something else, you know, but they decided to call it number 3 Pro, and that's that, period, end of story, you know. Okay. What's the big deal? Compared to the Super TFZ, the Force One, the number 3 Pro is a superior IM, period. Actually, to be honest, out of all the Super TFZ stuff that I have tried, this is unquestionably the best one. Compared to the older ones, it is the one that has, you could say, the more audiophile style of tuning, way more polished overall compared to the Live 3, maybe not as much bass but more polished. Compared to the number 3, more detail in the mids, a better execution of the mids and the highs, again testament to the fact that the bass has been brought down, but there's just, like I said, there's just something here in the tonality of the number 3 that I just enjoy. Okay, compared to the King Edition, for me personally, I think it's better than the King Edition. The King Edition's got way too much bass. It just becomes fatiguing after a while. Compared to the Killer Pro and to the Live X, obviously these two are significantly more expensive, and ultimately, yes, these two are better than the number 3 Pro, but it's not a better which maybe justifies the price difference to start with. And again, you know, it will very much be dependent on you know, usage, volume, music, and so on. Compared to the Live Edition, I already said it's more polished, and TFZ, the Force One, way better. I mean, no comparison. And that's it, guys. I mean, there's really not much more I can say. What is then this IEM here? This is an XSL, the X-zero, which kind of has a shell which is almost equal, or if not equal even, to the shell used by the Oline and the Oline SE. And I have a chair because it's another IEM. It costs around the $60-odd you know, price. And you know, if I was, I'll be very honest, if I was to choose between this and the number 3 Pro, this, period. I mean, it's got better accessories. It brings a hard case, at least. Okay, brings a hard case. Brings five different tip sizes, tip types. Sorry. Brings extra filters. Brings a nice cable, which is 4.4mm terminated. Has got a decent price. It fits nicely and it sounds nice. It's got a more safer kind of, let's put it, well, not safer, but it's got a kind of a harmonious tune. It just sounds nice. It's a very nice sounding IEM. You know, it's not offensive. It doesn't pretend to be something that it isn't. And at the same price, definitely I would take this over the number 3 Pro, and even the Live 3. I would take this over the Live 3. No issues. Alright, anyway guys, that's basically my take here on the TFZ number 3 Pro. Well, TFZ, no, sorry, let me correct that. Super TFZ number 3 Pro. And yeah, that's it. I'll show you the graphs now next. Okay, you take care now. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section. So, this is the graph of the Super TFZ number 3 Pro. As you can see, kind of very relaxed bass execution with even a slight roll off. But very relaxed, kind of just also goes very mellow into the mid bass and into the mids. I mean, everything is very, very relaxed, very smooth. And then we have this very slow pin gain, which kind of peaks around there, between 4 and 5, it peaks around there. A couple of related peak, and then, well, some extension past 10K. The first one I'm going to be showing you straight away is actually the TFZ, the Force One. And they couldn't be more opposite to each other. The first one, you could say that yes, okay, in terms of the bass, it's got a nice execution of the bass, sub bass focus with a very nice glide into the mid bass, no bleed into the mids or anything. But then this crazy pin gain here of like 14 dBs roughly. And then, that typical peak, the peaks that they have at 2.5, 4.5, and then, no, this is not, honestly, not a nice idea. The next one that I'm showing you here is now the live edition 4, and yes, there is some touch of similarity in terms of the signature. The Live 4's got less bass, so even the mids and the upper mids and treble, well, you can see there's actually a nice amount of extension, which is not so noticeable when you're comparing to the number 3 Pro, but more noticeable, yes, when you do compare it to like the original number 3 or to the Live 3. You notice this extension. There's more detail. Well, again, never forget the fact that we don't have as much bass is also helping that out. So that's that. The next one now, let me actually just change the color here for this one so you can see it better. This is the number 3, the original number 3, and as you can see, the biggest difference really is that the original number 3's got more bass output below 100 Hertz, which is very much noticeable, and then that extra energy there is what actually takes away a little bit of the cleanliness that you could otherwise have in terms of the mids and the highs, because as you can see, the peaks are not that much. They find this is not offensive in any way. There's just not much extension, in terms of treble. It's very, but when you listen to both of them, you actually find the Super TFZ number 3 Pro to be more lively in terms of treble than the number 3. And again, a lot of that is down to the fact that it's got less bass. Okay, so that's that one done. The next one is the Live 3, and again, as you can see, the Live 3, a lot of similarities to the original number 3. I'll just put them both and you can see they're very, very similar. So original number 3, okay, that's the graph. Live 3, and it's like I was saying, they sound very similar, but there's just something here about the original number 3. It just, I don't know, the timbre, the tonality, I don't know if it's maybe the little bit extra energy that we find here in the upper mids and the treble. It just sounds nicer, that's all. Not a big difference, but it just sounds nicer. Okay, the next one now is the Tequila Pro. The Tequila Pro, again, it's got those peaks and so on, which kind of messes things up, but the fact that it's got such a nice amount of bass does help control a little bit that, just that it loses out in terms of clarity, in terms of the upper mid-range and treble, so it's fine, but I actually modified the number 3, the Tequila Pro. I did a small mod on it, which is taking away, no, you actually add a 350 filter onto the nozzle, and wow, trust me, wow, it really changes completely the Tequila Pro. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about here is the original one. And then finally, the XSL, the Xero, which is this graph here, which in terms of the bass, it's a little bit more extension, in sub bass, but it's kind of the give and take. Very nice execution of the bass, as you can see, almost flat by 300 Hertz, so no bleed. Very nice progressive pin gain, picks up around 2.7, 2.8K, and then just drops off nicely with a nice amount of extension past 10K. So there's definitely more sense of air, of space, of 3D on the X-zero. And that's it, guys. I mean, there's really nothing more I can say. I hope I was clear enough, and I know I didn't do it under 10 minutes, but I tried. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe, and any questions, please feel free to ask. Take care now. Bye-bye.